Welcome to episode 74 of Concussion Talk Podcast. I'm Nick Mercer, and along with Aaron Guilfoyle, we will talk to Ryan Phillips about post-concussion syndrome, PCS, and about being happy. Aaron and I are now talking to Ryan Phillips, and Ryan is going to tell us about his background, just generally where you grew up and how you got started in hockey and all that stuff and everything in BC, I believe, right?
Absolutely. No, super grateful to be on the show and experience, share my experience with not just athletics, but obviously concussion awareness, brain health, and what I do, obviously, to combat and cope with the brain injuries that I've sustained. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia. That's where my dream started, to be an NHL hockey player. You know, I probably had a stick in my hand when I was born. It was like my dominating dream. That's all I thought about was, playing in the NHL along my hero, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Steve Yzerman, you name it. I mean, my room was like one giant vision board of my dream. And, by the time I was 15, I was being highly sought after by, all the major junior teams in the Western Hockey League. This was like before they had the draft. So we're going back into 1990, 91 seasons. Kind of like shows my age. 45 years young, even though I don't feel it. Some days I feel 1,000. Some days I feel like I'm 5.
Yeah.
But so I actually sustained my first concussion when I actually fell out of a tree when I was probably about 6 years old, and I remember being knocked out cold. As I came to consciousness, I remember not feeling right at all, very nauseous and just like completely discombobulated and out of sorts. I was rushed to the hospital, and I clearly remember that because my grandfather was in the hospital having some surgery done on his leg. And so I was actually in the hospital for 2 days, and, they told me that I'd sustained a concussion. Back 40 years ago now, Christ, it doesn't seem like it's that long in retrospect, but, the education back then and the knowledge that, that we have now was kind of limited. And, that perpetuated, obviously, where I just, from that point on, it was like I was very sensitive to everything, my emotions and whatnot. Being mentally very resilient at that age and being able to perpetuate forward academically, I was still real good. I was fine. Sports was one thing that obviously kind of took my mind off of whatever was kind of going on. Hockey being obviously number one.
Yeah.
I have sustained 7 diagnosed concussions over my life, 5 in hockey, 2 outside of hockey. I was having a conversation actually last night with a gentleman that he played in the NHL for a while. I won't name his name just because I still want to throw it out there. But, we talked about CTE and whatnot, and, he suffers from that as well. And it's just like literally talking to the mirror. It's the same symptoms. The ups and downs, like a roller coaster. One day if you're feeling kind of fine, and then you're feeling optimistic. The next day, it's getting out of bed is like the hardest thing in the world. Just putting a shirt on, even taking a shower. The light sensitivity, even in my eyes, and I'm just one of those never give up guys that I try to keep going and. Try to put a good positive message forward. But, let's go back to the hockey thing for a sec. My first year playing in the Western Hockey League, which would have been my draft year, I was rated high 3rd round.
So the Western Hockey League is just West Coast of Canada and U.S.?
Excuse me, sir?
The West Coast Hockey League is just Canada, U.S., right?
The WHL, yeah. So the OHL of the West, and the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League of the West. So Major Junior WHL. Obviously, thousands of players have been drafted out of the WHL and gone on to have very, very successful NHL careers. There was no plan B for me. It was just, I was going to be playing in the NHL by 18 in my mind, and I I say this humbly, I had the skill set, I had the size, and but unfortunately, that first year away from home, there was a lot of things that added into not just the concussions, but just your mental faculties as far as being part of a team where the culture has changed a lot over the years, right? So. Like a lot of that was like a lot of the rookie hazing and the rituals that went on that have been so candidly and publicly being spoken about on a national and international level right now with such players that came out with with the likes of Theron Fleury, Sheldon Kennedy. Even Dan Carcillo recently, with his issues with his coach in Sarnia. And I met Dan in Belleville last year at a public speaking engagement that we did for mental health awareness. It was with the Ducky brand, and it was nice to meet Dan and seeing that it's always nice to meet people that are going through the same kind of similar stuff that you are. So it kind of makes you feel like you're less alone on this journey. But it's that first year away from home, I got hit from behind as I was going full speed, breaking on the left hand side of the ice, and I got hit from behind going full speed. And I remember tucking my head underneath my chin right at the last second before I hit the boards. Uh-huh. And I suffered a really bad neck injury. I didn't break my neck, but I have severe arthritis in my neck now. I was out for probably about a minute and a half or so, knocked unconscious. And I also broke my shoulder in 3 places and dislocated it at the same time. And I remember my dad always said, whenever you get knocked down on the ice, get right back up. And, I remember that night there was a record crowd in the stands. So they were playing against the Seattle Thunderbirds. So there's 15,000 plus people in the stands at the Tacoma Dome. And I get up, I'm seeing stars, I'm wobbling to the bench. And, these are the days where people just didn't really have the knowledge of what happens. When you get that shock to your brain. And next thing I know, the coach kicks me in the ass and tells me to get out there for the next shift. This is not even 2 minutes later after being knocked unconscious and sustaining a very heavy concussion with the broken shoulder and dislocated shoulder at the same time. And my shoulder just dropped. It dropped literally probably half a foot, literally. And I looked up at my mom, my dad, my grandparents. They were in the stands. I remember looking at my father, and he was just, had this. I'll never forget that look on his face of worry. And I literally I mouthed the words, "I'm Fucked." I was just. It was a really, really tough time. Especially with the draft coming up that year and being touted high and. Next thing you know, I'm out for 4 months, and I got rushed to the hospital, and they had to cut my jersey off, and it was just those 4 months were really tough. A lot of confusion, still trying to fit in with the team with not even playing, and that's where a lot of substance abuse actually kind of got poured into the mental soup, so to speak, and just trying to fit in. Next thing you know, you're getting booze poured down your throat and all the initiations of getting, I mentioned it on other podcasts before, and I'm not trying to throw the league under the bus or, I love the game of hockey. It's got a very deep love in my heart. But these are days of, major rookie initiations that were very harmful on young kids' psyche and, getting taped up and thrown into the hot box into the bathroom there with 7, 8 guys butt naked. You're not allowed to come out until you got all your clothes on, and it was really hard to go through that after going through an impacting brain injury where you don't even really know what's going on because I was at that point I was a straight A student, and now my cognitive ability to even concentrate with academics was getting hindered. And I just didn't even know what was going on. Like, what is going on with my brain? But I just, I kept shoving it down and putting it like it's no big deal. And I had no educational variety of, what a concussion really is. And, the injury to the brain, like with CTE, is just so, everything that comes along with it, the suicidal ideation. I do know why people take their lives. Would I take my own life? Not a chance. I just don't give up. My message to people that do have sustained, major head trauma, minor head trauma, anything, and are suffering from any mental health issues that have, been caused by a knock to the head or any kind of trauma whatsoever is to really source out the best help available. And that's what I had to do. And until I did that, I wasn't really able to gain any clarity on what I actually was, dealing with. And it just kind of opened up like the floodgates of other people being open. And, beyond hockey, all the concussions I sustained with hockey that, cut my career short due to, these issues that were sustained, not just from concussions, but obviously, your attitude towards the game, you're not able to perform at peak performance and whatnot. It left me kind of hanging with a little bit of resentment towards the game where, like, why am I not being taken care of the right way? If I do have a problem, say with substance abuse and whatnot, and I know it's changed a lot now, there is a substance abuse program in the Canadian Hockey League, in the National Hockey League, all the major leagues have them now, which is awesome. I'm really super stoked about that. I was band-aiding my pain with, painkillers and, you name it, whatever they gave me. It was, back then it was Percocets and morphine and, which led into clonazepams and Xanax and whatever else to, kind of stave away, like, why am I feeling like this? The anxiety and, I didn't know what depression was. Like, why am I feeling so down? And, why do I have my hands in my face all the time and just scared and living in fear? And that literally was my brain just like on that fight or flight, but literally 99.9% of the time my brain was on flight. And, as you can tell, intellectually I can speak no problem, but the pressure on my brain is still there. I do a lot of massage, like energetic massages that are hitting pressure points that, I try to stay hydrated. I do whatever I can do to actually just, kind of make it through the day with less pain, so to speak, because obviously body follows mind, and we obviously carry so many neurotransmitters, in our gut. And so I have to be really cognizant on what I put in my system as far as, food. So like every factor plays into the demographics of our overall, say, getting to the point of homeostasis, where our right brain and left brain are working as one, in unison, so to speak. So, like I said, I'm no expert. I'm learning as I go. I listen to people that have, obviously gone through similar trauma. And yeah, it's not always easy being able to accept the fact that, this injury isn't something that, is just going to go away overnight. It's never going to go away. It can just be it can only be really treated to the best of its capabilities. And, I really, truly wish there was more resources. It is one of the main driving forces why I rode across Canada and 4 other countries in 2019. It wasn't just for mental illness. It was for concussion awareness. It was for, any mental health disorder. I was told I had bipolar. Later I found out I don't have bipolar. I got post-concussion syndrome. It's what I have. I have CTE. I don't have bipolar. Do I suffer from depression? A lot of the times, yeah, I do. And I try to kill it with positivity, and I write down a journal of gratitude and all that kind of stuff. And life's hard enough as it is. So then when you throw a concussion and all these things on top of it, which come with the symptoms, every day is a battle. But I don't back down. I don't back down with life and life's challenges. And, I'm a humble warrior, and I'm not trying to get famous through any bike rides or anything like that. I'm just really, really trying to perpetuate a message of hope.
Great.
Yeah, I just had a question there. So usually with athletes who have suffered a concussion, there's a loss of identity they often feel. And that, especially at that formative age you were, going into hockey and having that basically as your life, and like that was your only dream kind of thing, no backup plan. When the concussion started adding on to that, why do you think you stuck with it? Because it was so much part of your identity, and would there be anything like that would have made you leave it for any reason?
That's a great question, because I remember at the age of 17 or 18, always feeling very, very depersonalized and out of body. And, that was obviously a defense mechanism in the brain, just like closing off, as a defense mechanism pretty much. And, as far as you asked, like as far as like plan B, is that what you're asking? I mean,
yeah, like I
my
think a lot
mom-
of the struggle.
It was hockey was all I knew at the time, and I didn't want to let myself down. I didn't want to let my dad, my mom, my family, my community. I was supposed to be the guy. I was supposed to be the guy that was going to be playing in the NHL at 18, 19. That was the skill level that I humbly say that I was at. Playing with the likes of the Paul Correas that were, right around my age at the time, and the Brendan Morrisons, and, the list goes on. Those are my peers. And, a lot of, I guess, what hurt, I was always really proud of my friends that made it to the NHL and attain their dream. But there was a lot of hurt there because I wasn't able to really give my full 100% and be as good as I actually, could have been, because of sustaining these injuries that, I don't wish them on my worst enemy. I really don't. I'm grateful for my life. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And just even talking to you guys right now is part of the definite purpose of my life, is just to pay it forward, where I can give people a message that if they're not feeling right after being knocked in the head, if they do have concussion syndromes or, any type of mental health syndrome, is they're just to be able to reach out for help. Just reach out for help. So
I find with athletes especially, they're so driven to stick with the sport they're in and like keep going with that. Would there be anything you think that could reach them to bring them out of that if they've suffered a severe concussion?
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, as far what I did, I mean, I won't. I mean, obviously, my story's publicized quite, globally now, with obviously being featured on National Geographic as the king of weed. So, I was really hurt, I guess, by what happened with emotionally with the game. And I was living in the States at the time. That's where I was playing hockey in the States, and there was all kinds of guys down there that wanted BC marijuana, and next thing that business fell on my lap, and it was quite lucrative. And the less I was able to really give the best of my abilities to the game of hockey, and the more lucrative that this business became, it was almost like I was caught between two worlds. The business of marijuana enabled me to have a team around me where I was able to build a team. And at the end of the day, it's like we all want love and acceptance. And so, it was built into a massive empire and a business. And that's obviously why, National Geographic wanted the story and whatnot. And a lot of people want the story. And that's all good. I'm okay with that. But that was all a byproduct of, losing my identity of a hockey player. But then at the same time, because it's such a fast lane lifestyle on the outer confines, so to speak, not in the arena, but on the outside of the arena, the whole, the glamour and the glitz on the outside isn't so pretty on the, behind the scenes, right? So, not to downgrade the game of hockey or by any means, I really was, like I said, I was hurt, and the next thing you know, this business falls on my lap, and I was like, oh, I'm able to live the same kind of life, even bigger and so-called better, and not get treated a certain way by a multitude of coaches, because a lot of these coaches didn't understand why I wasn't able to give my all. They'd be like, "What's your problem?" And I'd be like, "Well, I have a terrible migraine headache. I got vertigo right now, and I can't see out there." And it'd be like, "Quit faking it." Like, I'm like, "I'm not faking anything. Like, why would I fake a migraine? I want to be out there more than anything in the world." And it's like these migraines. I don't know if they were, obviously a ripple effect maybe from the concussions. And I still get them. I'll go like a couple years where I don't get them at all, and then I'll get like 3 in 2 weeks, and they last for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And I actually was on a podcast 2 weeks ago, and I had a massive migraines are completely different than a regular headache. I'm sure you know that, Erin. And I don't know if you guys suffer from migraines, but for any migraine sufferers out there, for my symptoms is it's almost like a mini stroke. I'll slur my speech. I get numbness all in my lips. My left arm usually goes really numb and tingly. That's the onset. Then I get the vertigo where I can only see like maybe half the screen. I can't think straight. And it's so scary. It's the scariest place to be, because you're like, am I going to come out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like, and, I pray, I believe we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, but I tell you, I pray to something out there, and it's like, thank God, I don't know. It's just, it's so complex. It's just like, I say a lot of the time people talk about mental illness. Well, mental illness, to me, a lot of it is society illness. It's all these labels that they bestow upon us. CTE, concussions, it's an illness. And a lot of that is just, thank God it's being brought to the forefront. And, that's why I will continue to be an advocate for not just mental health awareness, but obviously, like, big time, what's like my main thing is concussions. So it's all part of the same demographic, obviously. But I'm really proud of you guys for having this podcast and being able to like shoot out messages to people where they can have that one word that I believe is so important for all of us to move forward in life is HOPE, having hope.
Yeah.
And hope comes in numbers too. It's all about being able to bind together as one, and really have a support network around us where we can reach out. Because it's one thing to do a podcast and hear things. It's another thing to be able to actually reach out to certain people that say, okay, I get it. I understand. So I'm one of those people that, I don't know, throw my Instagram handle on there. People want to reach out to Ryan Phillips and get some feedback on their own neurological issues, so to speak. I'm an open book. I'm very transparent, and I can give them any kind of if I can give them any kind of like beneficial advice, I'm always here to help.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate your ability to describe your symptoms as well, because I find so many of the clients I work with, they're often like, I didn't honestly realize other people experience the migraine the same way I do. And then they get more hope from that. It's just hearing someone put it into words what they didn't think anyone else had.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I feel like somebody hijacked my brain, put somebody else's brain in there, and then scribbled black and pink crayon all over it and said, now work with this.
I just wanted to ask you if my audio is a bit messed up, but hopefully you can hear me. It's fine.
I can hear you perfectly. Okay, absolutely.
Great, awesome. So I know you're migraines now. You're a major part. I never had a problem with migraines myself, but what other do you think lasting symptoms from concussion do you feel? I don't know, daily or never just at all.
I feel fatigue, lack of energy. I am taking some products right now that are helping me with that. I'm a firm believer in omega-3 fatty acids. Like Herring Gold is actually a good brand. It's a non-GMO. It's fast absorption. Omega-3. DHA, EPA. kind of thing. I take turmeric. I take a lot of D3, vitamin D3. I take a lot of magnesium, vitamin C, obviously, and I take CBD as well. It's legal here in Canada, so I take CBD, helps me with a little bit of calming when I get into that kind of that fight or flight, which is for me a lot of fight. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. I know they're not completely legal yet, but I am an advocate for microdosing psilocybin.
I heard actually that Oregon had interesting notes. It's November 4th today, but last night in the U.S. election, Oregon had a ballot measure to allow psilocybin for critical care cancer patients, and that was voted yes or whatever. It was voted good up there. So anyway, that's just an aside. But.
Absolutely. Yeah. So fire away. I'm an open book. Any other questions you want to ask me, I'm good to go. Pertaining to hockey, pertaining to anything in life. I'm a firm believer of just being able to share and whatever I can do to get back to you guys as far as a takeaway for the audience. Just give it.
Great. Well, I have one question about your fatigue. Where do you find there's a trigger for that? For when you feel the most?
I think sometimes what happens is what triggers me is a lot of light sensitivity. So during my daytimes are probably my biggest struggle, that I have to, just going into like say a Walmart or even, just a grocery store even, the light sensitivity really affects me. I'm not that guy to be wearing shades in the grocery store, but I try to get in and out of there as fast as possible. Another trigger is when I actually, when I talk to other people about their trauma that isn't really pertaining to concussions, but, hearing a lot of just like, I don't really like to hear negative stuff in my life. Like I find I have to stay on a positive frequency to kind of have my life running in a smooth, somewhat, not the deep, levels of like roller coasters of the ups and the downs of it, like life ain't easy as it is, but as far as like, more of a kind of more of a stream of life where it's not like being just like, I'm getting totally discombobulated, but when I'm hearing somebody else's, story that doesn't really like involve like say concussions, but like a lot of trauma and stuff like that, that triggers me, and because I can only, at the end of the day, I can really just do the best I can to help myself, and then, obviously try to do my best to like give my advice to others, but I guess I kind of signed up for that when I went across a bunch of countries in 2019. That when I was doing it for mental health awareness, it wasn't just for concussions. It was for a lot of people that suffer from a lot of different maladies, and so I get a lot of DMs and reach outs from people that are suffering from things that I'm like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist. I've studied psychology for 15 years. I'm very in tune on how the brain works, but at the same time, I don't have answers for anyone that's suffering from, like, I'm not a doctor. All I can say is
it worked for
do
you.
research to find out what's going on inside, and go about it in a way that's fast track it as fast as possible, because your mental health, everything starts on top, and if your thinking isn't right and destructive behavioral patterns are coming into your experience and your life is becoming unmanageable, you're having to cope with alcohol or drugs or whatever that aren't good for the system or for the brain, then you got an issue, and you better attack that issue as fast as possible so you can live, which I believe that everybody deserves on this planet, especially if they have a big heart and you're doing good in the world, is to live a fulfilled life.
But before, I know Erin had some questions about the cycling, but what do you do for yourself to make yourself feel not like a daily or a weekly or whatever basis to make yourself feel better about You said like
exercise. I do a lot of exercise. I try to get myself into the gym at least 5-6 days a week, and I'll put 2 hours into the gym. I'll do at least an hour cardio. Even when I'm feeling fatigued, I don't have. I mean, I used to be able to run like nobody's business, but sometimes I was having this chat last night. It's funny. I was averaging probably 130 kilometers a day when I was going across the second biggest landmass in the world, which is Canada.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there was some sort of centrifugal force or a higher power that was pushing me forward. Even though I did have to visit 7 different hospitals along the way to, I had to obtain some medication to alleviate my anxiety because. I mean, my knees were just, I was putting my physical apparatus, so to speak, through the ringer. Yeah. And so I believe that exercise as much as you can, hydrate big time, 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm human, right? So, I do the best to put the right kind of foods that agree with me into my body. And I mean, other than that, exercise, and just if I'm feeling like crap, even though I don't want to pick up the phone, I pick up the phone and I try to talk to somebody that's understanding and kind of puts me into a level of more comfort and, alleviates a lot of anxiety. It's amazing how people with compassion, when you reach out to people that actually can have that kindness and compassion in their heart to listen, and give you a different perspective on the way you feel, and it makes you feel less alone, like I said before. So, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of leads into what I was wondering about with the cycling part. Because I remember I watched the introduction to the documentary for cycling. Okay. And you said almost how cycling across gave you a process and a way to bring back your identity. So it was almost like cycling was a coping mechanism for you, and doing it for that purpose was kind of the big part driving you forward.
Absolutely. I'm such a huge believer in, definiteness of purpose. If we don't have a purpose, if we don't have a plan, then what's our existence really all about? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like I attached an identity to it, because I even said it in the beginning. I said, this isn't Ryan's ride at all. This is a ride for all the millions of people in the world that are suffering in tremendous pain and silence. And, I was one of those guys that was suffering in tremendous pain and silence for so many years without saying anything, because that my pride was getting the best of me. And, I was prescribed all kinds of medication. None of it worked. None of it worked. I wasn't suffering from bipolar, yet I was given lithium. So I was like, I'm gonna take lithium for the first little bit here of the bike ride and see if it works. And it had such an adverse side effect, actually, that, and I don't mean to downgrade Big Pharma, because I know they took 3 minutes out of a TED Talk I did after I did the ride across Canada. I did a TED Talk on the whole ride, and I actually spoke very candidly on, natural-based plant medicines having the ability to restore the brain to homeostasis. And they actually cut that out of the TED Talks, and it was probably the most important thing that I think people should have heard, is that, we can actually help our brain through neuroplasticity, through different, cognitive, ways of coping, so to speak. But, they, a lot of these big conglomerates, like Big Pharma, and TED Talks is obviously a big thing in the world, and they don't want to ruin their name if some guy, I'm just a guy, right, that went across the country because I care with my heart. And, the sad thing is that science back, that natural-based plant medicines help with the brain. They do. And it's, I don't know how bad other people's symptoms are, but I find that, putting a chemical into my body actually drains me more than actually putting in good food, lots of greens, lots of water, good like detox teas, even taking, a neuroblend of, microdosing mushrooms and whatnot. if I have to do that, if I have to take the CBD and all this kind of stuff or whatever to, stay level, so to speak, then, that's what I'm going to do.
And
The
of
doctors,
course, it
the
all
doctor's
depends on the
opinion isn't
person
always
too.
right.
Yeah, but it'll all depend on how a person reacts to whichever as well, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been prescribed Effexor, I've been prescribed Abilify, I've been prescribed Prozac. I mean, you name it. Like, it's just been one thing after another, and none of them have worked. None of them.
It can be so difficult trying to find that chemical cocktail that ever will, and some people just never do. So
yeah,
I'm glad you found at least like an effective method that helps you, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and cannabis is, I mean, it's legal in our country now. Cannabis helps me. I don't smoke it during the day. But at night, I take a couple puffs of, it has to be the right strain. I don't smoke a full joint, or else it'll take me to the moon and probably, elevate my anxiety. But if I take, 2 or 3 tokes, and it gives me a kind of a better sleep. I don't have to take a sleeping pill or anything like that. It actually opens up a lot of my creativity. I love to write, and right now with the whole C thing, it's kind of given me a bit of a stumbling block on speaking globally, and that's kind of what I was doing is a lot of public speaking, and speaking and writing and sharing and advocating and all that kind of stuff. It's so now we got to use the medium of these podcasts, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I started my own podcast, and a lot of it is exactly what we're talking about right now, is having a lot of NHL guys, athletes, and whatnot talking about their issues from post-concussions and mental health journeys.
Yeah, so my last question really just ties those two together. Like, so when you originally were in hockey and had your first concussions and all that, the mental health aspect of concussions weren't talked about at all by the coaches, really. Do you think that has improved now, and what more would you want to see?
I think definitely in capitals, YES. Yes, it's improved totally. Especially as far as the hazing and the rituals and whatnot. And I think the second a kid goes into the boards, we all know now, especially with like a player like Sidney Crosby, even that we all know what happened to him. That's anyone who's in the hockey world. All the concussions that he sustained has been just so brutal. And for him to come back and to perform at the level that he does, I mean, kudos to him. It just shows his mental resilience.
Ryan, I have one question about that. How did you like his description? He described a concussion as sort of like if you have a cold. You feel sort of if you have a cold or flu, but that's as best you can do to describe it.
My description of my symptoms, and I know and everyone has different symptoms. I told you, like, it feels like the old brain's been hijacked, but a lot of the time it's pressure on the brain, and it's either pressure on the brain, and it feels like a vice grip sometimes.
Yeah.
Is like literally like just squeezing against my head, and which engulfs a lot of fear, and then I start getting heart palpitations and anxiety and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, in order for me to alleviate that, it's a lot of deep breathing. I've been meditating for years. I'm not always super consistent on it, but I think the more consistent we are with actually, we're obviously creatures of habit. Human beings, we're driven on our emotions, and we're creatures of habit. So if we can actually structure our life with, good habits of doesn't mean you got to get up at 4 in, 5 in, whatever, but get up at maybe a decent hour. Take some time for yourself. Get some water into you. Maybe whatever. If you're a coffee drinker or tea drinker, I'm not going to tell anybody how to eat or live their life, but to get moving, to really get that energy. Energy in motion, right? Is if you can get a walk in nature, if the weather allows. But I find getting a good sweat and releasing those natural endorphins, even though sometimes our neuroreceptors, because of what we've sustained, aren't taking to it maybe as like a normal brain. it's still fueling what we got better than it would be if we were doing nothing. And sometimes it takes a lot. Like for me, I didn't want to go to the gym 2 days ago. I was scared to go to the gym. That sounds weird, but the second I got there, 10 minutes after I got there, and I'm kind of shocking the old parasympathetic nervous system, that's all connected to the vagus nerve and everything else and all that kind of stuff. And when we get into the whole science back part of it, after 2 hours I walk out of there and I feel like a new guy, and I'm like, it's kind of overcoming that fear-based mentality of our brain going into that kind of stagnation, and then being able to overcome that stagnation and just keep moving. I think that's the main thing with people that suffer from concussions, is that they have a really hard time being able to move forward, because they're like, why do I have this? Is this ever going to go away? And the fact of the matter is, we just got to work with what we have to the best of our ability.
And
on that note, I think all my questions are up. Nick, go ahead.
Your question at the NHL, what do you think they're doing?
Excuse me, sir?
The NHL, what do you think they're doing? How do you think the NHL is doing now? How do you think the NHL is doing towards concussion recovery, recognizing concussion hazing and all that stuff? So how do you think the NHL, OHL, everything is doing? CHL.
Well, I'm on the phone with daily with NHL guys, even pertaining to my podcast that I launched. I launched my podcast about a month and a half ago, and I'd love to have one of you guys on, even as to be able to maybe get some information as well. It's called. Would you mind if I said my podcast on here?
My next question would be to talk about your social media and everything. So
just
share it all. Plug everything.
Blend it all in one.
I will share it all. Okay. So my podcast is called All Over the Map, and you can obviously hop on there. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. So you just got to search All Over the Map on. It pops up, and we talk about a lot of what we're talking about right now. And I think a lot of these guys too that I have on, actually, guys like Riley Cote, who played for the Philadelphia Flyers, and he had to cut his career short at 28. And he's all about brain health, and he's got his own product, Body Check, right now that is helping a lot of people. And Riley's a great guy. So having these kind of people on my podcast, which I don't even call it my podcast, it's All Over the Map. It's about everybody, and I'm such a firm believer that sharing a positive message, especially in these times where people are really in a state of unrest and scrutiny and fear, is really, really important. And that's why, I'm really proud of you guys for what you're doing. And, it's the reason why I started my podcast. I started it because it's a medium to be able to help people out, that are suffering, and maybe not suffering, but that can help somebody that is.
For sure.
And so where else can people find you? You're on Instagram.
Well, Instagram. Yeah, Instagram. I just made my handle public not that long ago. So I'm open. You can reach out to me on Instagram. Absolutely. It's Ryan Phillips Warrior. So RyanPhillips Warrior. And that's my Instagram handle. And then my podcast handle on the Instagram is it's at All Over the Map Podcast. You can follow on there. And like I said, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. And reach out. Absolutely reach out. I'm here and available. And, until my heart stops beating, I'm never going to start advocating.
Awesome.
Did I say start or stop? I already started, so I can't stop.
Exactly.
Once you get the wheels turning, there's no turning back.
That's awesome. So, Erin, did you have any other questions or anything else? And
no, just thank you so much, Ryan. It was amazing talking to you and hearing more about your story. Can't wait to share it and get the message out and have more people reach out to you. I'm so proud of what you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ryan. We'll get this podcast out on Tuesday, November 10th. November 10th. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I look forward to sharing it. I'll share it on all my platforms, and I'm not a super tech guy, but I'll do my best to get it out there the best I can, and I'll always promote you guys the best of my capabilities, because I'm part of you guys. I'm part of the collective consciousness that's dealing with a lot of stuff right now. So the more we can deal with some of these issues, the better world will be.
Great.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you so much.
Much love.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you very much to Ryan, and thank you to everyone for listening. Erin and I will be back soon with a new podcast. Thanks again. Concussion Talk Podcast is presented by HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges the gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Trek Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck Health to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.